I think the definition of greatness is to inspire the people next to you. It's not something that lives and dies with one person. It's how can you inspire a person to then in turn inspire another person that then inspires another person. And that's how you create something that I think lasts forever. And I think that's our challenge as people, is to figure out how our story can impact others and motivate them in a way to create their own greatness.
Welcome to the Welcome to the 3 on 3 podcast. That's right. You're tuned in to the number one basketball podcast in the universe. I'm here with my compadres, my amigos. I got Ev here. I got my boy Lou. And we have the Pod Mamba in the background, making sure that we continue to be the number one basketball podcast in the universe. We have a great show in store for you as always. Um, Off to a bad start, man. We're going to be discussing some teams that are, not looking so great. We're also going to be discussing our favorite teams, some of which are not looking so great. I hate that I have to say that. And last but not least, we're going to be talking about tanking. We're going to have a discussion about it. Does it look good? Is the draft even significant? So much we got to dive into, guys. But first and foremost, let's start with our teams. It's an emotional topic. We're going to get deep into it. We're going to dissect our favorite teams. You have the Blazers, who are flirting with the play-in like it's a situationship that knows not going to end well. You got the Bulls that are back to their annual tradition of being aggressively mediocre. And the Knicks, great record, troubling metrics. Are they actually better than last year, or are they just wearing some really good cologne? We're going to get into it, guys. All right. I usually don't do this, but got the Blazers in my background. We're going to start off with my squad, man. My Blazers, my Portland Trail Blazers. We started off the year in fantastic form with our coach being arrested by the FBI.
Great start.
Listen, man, we're starting in great Blazer fashion. And
In a blaze of glory.
yes, a blaze of barata in a blaze of glory. And I know most people may not discount that or may discount it, I'll say. I think it was very significant because one of my gripes earlier on in past seasons is ever since we lost Dame, we didn't have an identity. We had all these young guys, they were just balling. We didn't know who we are. We didn't know if we were really gonna sell in or sell out, I'm sorry, offensive on the offensive side of the ball, or if we were just gonna be a gritty defensive team. We are just up and down, really not knowing who we are and who the leader was, who's gonna put up buckets, right? Was it gonna be Simons before we, of course, traded him to Boston, et cetera, et cetera. And I will say, Ev was the one who was like, hey man, he's there, kind of be patient with him. And after giving him a couple years or two, he started to actually bring an identity to our team, reminiscent of the Detroit Pistons, right? They were really grinding, defensive oriented, and that's what we were doing last year. We ended the league in top 3 or 4 defensive rating. We ended the season in a good way. I mean, granted, we didn't make the play-in and everything like that, but in terms of establishing who we were and our brand of basketball, I feel like we accomplished that last year. And then, not to mention, we're excited. We got Dame back. He's injured. We won't see him till next year, but we had something to look forward to. This year, man, I will say this. Although we started off the year with Chauncey, the team rallied for a little bit. We rattled off a couple wins, a notable win against OKC. We were actually their first loss, right? So showing that, hey, we're here to compete. Denny Advia giving you 22, close to 25 points a game. I want him to be an all-star. He's developing. Shaden Sharp's being healthy this year. He's being a clear number 2, sometimes number 1, right? And we have some pieces that are really working, that are fitting. Tumani's a lockdown defender. He's facing the best defender every night. He's doing that. And at the end of the day, although we're not where I want us to be, we're making progress. We rattled off a couple notable wins recently. We beat the Celtics. We just beat the San Antonio Spurs this last game, and we're in playing position. Currently standing while we're recording right now, we're in the ninth seed in the West. And I really think we could hover around this area, and that makes us to me, we're meeting expectations right there, if not really exceeding it. If you think about the West and how it's shaping up, we really shouldn't be in playing. We should be down with, the pick and pull guys, the, the Pelicans, the Kings. We should be in that territory, but we're really up there, man. So, as much as it's frustrating to see our ups and downs, I'm actually okay with the progress that we're doing because what I'm seeing is when we go to, like, let's say we lose two in a row, we bounce right back. And that to me is telling. That means we're resilient. We still have some sense of the identity. And Tiago, he's our coach standing in right now. He's not a bad fit. He brings some of that structure, that grit, especially when he was with the Spurs. So we need some of that Spurs program influence in the Blazer locker room. So I'm here for it, man. I'm here for it, and I'm done with my soapbox.
Not too many 7-foot coaches out there, so we'll start there.
There you go.
We'll give that as a plus. We'll give that as a plus. You said some things there that I want to not jump on, but kind of unpack a little further for you, right? From a team that, like you said, did not have high expectations coming to this season. No disrespect, and a lot of teams that we'll be talking about today, kind of fill that mold. For y'all to be in ninth place, from a playing standpoint, especially the way the season started with your coach, I think you got to look at that as okay. Hey, that's progress, right? That's a good news story. The challenge I have though is I feel like y'all are looking down in the standings versus looking up at who y'all can get after, right? You have two teams. Memphis is behind y'all, and Memphis is kind of in the same boat. When you look at Dallas and you look at the Clippers, right? You have a team in the Clippers that are incredibly underperforming, right? That nobody expected to be that far down. So it's like, okay, are they going to get right? Cannibalize one of those playing spaces, right? You got Dallas where don't know really what to make of them, right? Are they horrible or should they be better, right? So it's almost like y'all are in the 9-10, but you have an 11-12 right behind you all that almost turned into like a play-in within the play-in itself.
100%.
Every season,
that's how we're looking.
Yeah.
That's our playing bracket. The
Right.
11, 12,
It's the play-in before the play-in, right?
Yeah, man. The prequel. Listen, man, sometimes you need the trailer before the movie. We're fighting for the best trailer, man. Stop playing.
You know how sometimes you have like 3 different trailers for the film too. He's like, yeah, which is going to be the best one?
This is the first one before the movie that doesn't come out till like late next year, right?
That part. That part. The movie we're all waiting on.
Oh man, still being shot. My question though is this: we've been talking about, and as you so well put it, the pick and pulls. Do you guys think that before the trade deadline and so on come through, that there may be some players that you would add to your roster that may be able to help bolster that and help you guys for the future,
100%.
or do you kind of just rock out? Like, what do you see that right now based on what may be available out there? Can they plug in some spots that will help you guys, move the needle?
Yeah, no, 100%. So I'll say this. As I look at the pick and pull teams, I like Sabonis. We need a solid 4 or 5 to anchor us, right?
So
And
is that a
someone who's
nostalgic pick or
listen. I may have alternative motives, right? We could say, hey, your dad played here, okay? You come on home, okay? Dave, come on home.
pitch?
Come
Good
on
selling
home.
pitch.
Listen, go ahead, start talking to Dad Sabonis, and be like, hey, yo, man, talk to your son, man. Come on, man. I think we may have some contractual issues, but we got to get rid of some people. I mean, I love Grant and what he's done. He's injured right now. But it's time to go, right? If we're gonna get somebody like Sabonis, like do that. I think that's what we're missing. At guard play, we're good on. We're good on guards, right? We got Shaden, we got Danny, we got Dame coming, we got Caleb. Like we have some guards. We need to package some players and really get a solid, like versatile 4 or 5 guy. And I think we'll be competitive. We really will be. So
What's
that's what we're
fascinating
missing.
with that list that you listed there is the guard that you did not name.
Scoop.
I,
Yeah,
And,
man.
I was just about
and so that, I mean, that's still, that's your existential question right there, right? That was your number 3 pick,
Yeah,
and you don't know what you have with him yet. You bring up
we
the
do.
Dame piece, and that's what's
we know
interesting.
we know what we have in them, but go ahead.
Oh well, okay, okay. Well,
hey,
that may be a problem itself, right?
We
But
have a
you
guard
bring
who can't shoot. That's what it is. And he doesn't do anything well enough to offset his non-shooting. He's a downhill player who can't put the ball in the hole. So, and he doesn't lock down defensively. He is
he's
what he is, man. It worked for the college game because they're not as big as they are in the NBA. You know, the defense is different. It doesn't work in the NBA. These
man.
guards can stay in front of you. So you got to have a jumper. He doesn't
Worst
have a
version,
jumper.
worst version of Rondo.
Not even.
so
If he could pass, that'd be great. He can't pass. He's a
That's
worse
what I'm
version
saying.
of Russell Westbrook. That's what he is. Because Russell Westbrook at least had the athleticism, you know, like the defensive like edge. He's a great value, Russell, man. What's less than great value? I don't know. And you know,
well, I
but
was
go
just
ahead.
gonna say, so in essence, your realistic hope is that this team is built ready made for Dame to resume point guard duties next year. And your hope is that you have all the pieces around him that complement a what it'll probably be 36 or something year old Dame
Mm-hmm.
well enough that 80-90% of him with a improved roster is what you're going for.
Well, 100%. And you know what I'm looking to, and we won't stay on me too long, guys. We've gone too much. Um, I'm looking for Dame to change this game to more off ball because we can't waste a talent like Denny. He's giving you 25, 7, and 7. You get what
Mhm.
I'm saying? Shaden's solid as well, too. Denny needs the ball in his hand. He's rhythm oriented, right? So I mean, granted, Dame and CJ were able to play off each other, but also those coaching stats. He was staggering the minutes on how he played CJ, and Dame would go out first and CJ would run it. So of course, there's some substitution things you can do with that. But I'd love to see Dame play a little more off the ball as well to fully maximize Denny and Shaden.
I ask one more question on this, and to your point for a trade, to bonus, whatever, I think Jeremy Grant has to be that piece in it. I think
100%,
he's been what should be the piece the last 4 years. So
100%.
definitely, if you make that move, Grant has to be the one out the door for it. I asked you this last question on Shaden. I see the numbers, 21 a game. I see the improvement. I see the flashes where he looks like, wow, he could be one of the best 2 guards in the league.
You see the highlights, dunking them
I
pretty
see the
fire.
highlights, right? But from a consistency standpoint, is the leap there or are these empty stats? Your honest
Mm.
assessment of it.
I'll say
Is it
this.
a book it?
Is it a Devin Booker? Wow, this guy. I'll say this. I think the leap is there just because the versatility in his game, he gives you something that'll stay there. Now, what I will say is I could see him being somebody who turns into a Manu for us, coming off the bench, giving him his role, and gets that. I could see him being that guy for us if we want to keep his top peak performance. But if you have at the end of the day, if you have him, Denny, and Dame in a lineup, somebody's gonna have to sacrifice. He's gonna be the third man out. I'd rather get him off the bench. He still gets his run. He plays both sides of the ball. He has energy. That's what I would do. So, but yeah. All right, guys, let's keep it moving. Let's keep it moving, man. Shout out to my Blazers, man. Let's go playing poppies. We're here. So let's talk Bulls talk, man. Let's talk that talk, man. So, Lou, what did Suggs do to you? He got dunked on and he's injured now. He has an MCL. Like you guys dunked on him so hard. He's out indefinitely. I'm just saying, bro. What did he do to you?
You know what?
He broke that man physically and emotionally.
I'm just saying, bro. Like,
Yo, you know,
dunked on
it
him
just
so hard.
he just caught the brunt of some pent up frustration. All right, and I think in part he's also sad because he can no longer wear his choker headband, but yeah, you know what? Shout out to Youngin. Shout out to Modest. You know what I mean? Making a beautiful highlight. You know what I mean? But you know what was great about that, or not great about that? That's probably going to be our highlight for the year. You know what I mean? That's probably going to be our highest point for the year. And I talked a little bit about the Bulls last week in terms of like where we are and how we have been perennially mediocre, and we haven't in the last 10 years we've only been 500, barely over 500 three times. We've made it to the playoff once. And that roster was like our most promising roster since having Jimmy and Derek. When we had Lonzo, we had Levine, we had Vooch, we had DeRozan, we had Derek Jones Jr., Caruso, um, and I think we also picked up that bum Tristan Thompson. But point is like we had a team that was super athletic, still fairly young in their career, and could score the ball. I mean, I remember seeing them in warm ups where they were basically everybody was. It looked like a dunk contest, and we had some good motion, good trajectory. Then everybody got injured, and we haven't been able to get right since, right? And we kept Lonzo for as long as we kept him, just for when he got back to ship him off. We haven't made any significant moves. The trade for Giddy, it seemed cool, but again, with no real pieces around it. Vooch again, we don't have a true number one for real. And
Yo,
honestly,
can we? I'm sorry, this is foolishness, but what's Vooch's problem, man?
I don't know.
Last night he did the same thing he did to Giannis, to Ball, to LaMelo and Ball. What's Vooch's problem, man? Can we talk about that real quick, man? What's
Yo,
Vooch's problem, man?
just seeing a disgruntled employee.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's what he looks
that's
like
what
for real.
Vooch is just a disgruntled employee because he's just like, yo, you know what? This is again. I gotta have some sort of excitement, and this is the most excitement he's gonna get. All right. Unfortunately, the Bulls again. We're like the Cowboys at this point, where we're just riding off the name for a past, a long past that we have not seen in
You're
over
living
a
off the
over
Jordan
a
Bulls. That's what you're
Jordan
living.
Bulls, and then D Rose. You know what I mean? Because
D
we
Rose
actually
Bulls.
we
Okay.
can't forget. I mean, because again, that's what I said. In the last 10 years, we haven't done nothing. Shortly before that, that was our last years of D Rose and Jimmy Butler. But then, no, our team right now, you as a fan, you have to almost accept the fact that management doesn't care about being good for real. They don't care about being good for real because all the moves that we've made, we've only at best been middle of the pack. So it's like how we talk about some of those teams that are just they know they're going to sell seats. They know that again they have a name that's going to bring people out. They know that it's going to be an attraction and so on and so forth. So they're just good with being mediocre, and it's unfortunate because I would have hoped that we've been able to do a little bit more, but it doesn't look like management is making any moves, at least not significantly, because we're holding on to pieces for way too long. We held on to DeRozan for way too long. If we were going to make moves with Levine, we should have made moves with him way earlier than we did. And we haven't really seen any true return on our investments. So, yeah, it's been unfortunate.
You're gonna hate what I'm about to say. You're gonna disagree on your surface with what I'm about to say, but I'm still gonna say it. We're not that much different, you and I, Lou. You know, we had a successful 90s. Y'all, yes, more successful than us, right? But we were competitive in the 90s, two finals appearances. Y'all won 6 championships in the 90s. And then the 2000s came, and it's just been treading water for about 20, 20, 25 years. You all had your D Rose phase. We had our mellow phase, when we had some early 2010 hope in our system. But then just back to teams that didn't meet the mark. I'm hoping that where we're headed is where you all will be headed soon, sir. I do. I do. But it's like you said, y'all need some players.
And you know what though? I think holding on to Lonzo as much as they did, and them being nonchalant about DeRozan and Zach Levine, those things right there, it should close their window, because you literally had DeRozan at a height, right, where he was considered the most clutch player in the NBA. He was a mid-range, before we were talking about Shea. You get what I'm saying? Like before we were talking about Shea Gilgeous-Alexander, it was
Yep.
DeMar DeRozan who was the mid-range assassin, right? Like you had him at his peak. Like you had where you could really just make a big move and get a couple people, but they were holding on to things that just didn't materialize. So it's like now, okay, where's the pivot coming from? And I'm gonna be real. If you're trying to get some real players in there, hold on to Kobe, because I know that's what you like, right? Kobe's your asset right now.
I'm about to
Hold
say
on to
that's our best
hold on
asset.
to Kobe. Get rid of Giddy. Get rid of Vooch. Get some. Start building, man. Start
Well, the
building.
problem with that though is that Boost is expiring. So if you don't get anything for him in the next month, he's leaving for free.
Mhm.
Kobe White is up for a contract extension. He's going to be making more than 14 million. So yeah, Kobe White looks great at 14 million a year. If he's bringing in 30 million a year, all right, how's that feel, right? And yeah, Giddy at 25 million a year. You guys re-upped on him. You're in that space where you were in, like you said, with the Rose and with the Levines and whatnot. Is okay. Do we hold on to a player that has talent but doesn't move the needle, or do we try to do something with him to level up? And so when you have those type of scenarios that you're working with, it's exactly like you said. Do you have the management in place to move the chess pieces right in a level of confidence? And I think that's been the existential crisis for the Bulls for the last 25 years, is that they don't have that.
And to be honest, at this point, nobody should be off the table. If we're really looking to make a significant change, nobody should be off the table.
Hey man, we'll take Vooch off your hands, man.
Of course, you would.
Y'all bring AD home, man, like y'all been talking about. Go ahead, bring AD home.
Listen, man. Everybody for Giannis. All right. let's talk. Let's talk Knicks talk. Ev, man, your team's been rolling. They're not really starting off bad. The New York Knicks are what, second in the East right now. But they've had some questionable games where they should have won and they didn't. This last game really against Philly, man. What's going on with the Knicks, man? What are some troubling signs? What are some red flags you're seeing here that your team needs to work out?
Well, I think like you said, we started off good, and although we've started off good, we're literally uh, exactly where we were last year, record wise. And so the changes from the team standpoint has been more of, okay, how do we look on the court? How are we utilizing our players and whatnot versus what the record is? Are we establishing a different identity? We've The positives is, we've won close games at an elite rate. We're plus 10, plus 12 overall in clutch games on the season. The challenge is that we just have too many close games because we can't hold leads, or we allow teams that we should be winning against, right, or dominating against, to stay with us for far too long. Um, our dependency on Brunson has increased. His
Mm-hmm.
usage is even up. His minutes are up from last year. The goal was to get those minutes down some. Although everybody else's minutes are down, Brunson's minutes are up by one or two. And then, that's a product of him playing better, yes. But that means we're still not getting enough from, the other players consistently to levy some of that from Brunson. Our defense was top 6 last year. We're middle of the pack this year, right? And we're still not getting that consistent. OG he'll give you 28, once every 14 days. Then he might have
He's
5 games in a row where he give you six,
he's
seven,
the one who
9,
disappears,
11,
man.
right? Right. Mikhail's
Disappears.
shooting better, but
Mm.
it's still not a consistent. We got a bunch of we got a bunch of 2, 3 players, right? but we don't have any. We got 1-1. Brunson become that one. Cat still at 2.27. I say that he's a 2.27, and then we got a bunch of 3.8s, not quite
I
threes.
can't stand this guy.
So that's where we stuck at there. The good part for us is that in January, like 12 of our 14 games, really all of them, we should be favored to win.
Okay.
We got
Got a
2
good
against
stretch coming.
Sacramento, 2 against Phoenix, 2 against I'm missing the team, but somebody in that caliber, right? 1 against Washington. We should win these games, but we'll see what we look like a month from now, because where we should be in position to pass Detroit, now we're looking down at Boston. That's not where we should be.
Got you.
One question: do you think? 2 questions for you. Do you think
You
winning
can only
that?
answer one. We got to move up. Go
Okay.
ahead.
Who was the bigger disappointment, Mike, Mikael or OG?
Mikel.
Really?
Oh yeah.
That's
OG is consistently playing defensive player of the year type defense.
Okay.
That's
Okay.
what we signed him for. And I
Okay.
mean, if you talk from a contract standpoint, maybe OG, because he's making over 200 million through the life of his contract. But I mean, he's at least giving you something definitively defensive player of the year type, right? Mikel, I think we still not getting Brooklyn Mikel, right? And so that's why I think it's a disappointment. Not disappointment, but when you put those two together in the context of the question you asked.
Got you. All right, guys, let's move on to our next topic. So we're gonna move on to the teams that are bad, but you really can't stop watching them. Um, I know mine is the Clippers. You know, they're a car crash in like slow motion. You don't want to stare, but you absolutely kind of do want to watch it, and you feel bad. You know, we have the Wizards. They're terrible, but they're kind of terrible and entertaining. Like a reality show that you pretend you don't watch. Um, and then you have an AAU squad that's playing on a professional level. you know,
Well,
so, so that's what it is. Ev, we'll start off with you. What's your team, man? Talk to us about your team, that your terrible watching team.
So I'm gonna do a couple things here first, because I always do, and I just do it so you can make the face that you make when I do it. Whenever I throw out a topic and I say let's pick one team, I pick 2 or 3 teams, right?
Oh
There we go.
God,
That's the reaction I'm
there's
looking
the
for.
face.
So
Jesus.
let me just tell a quick story, right?
Oh,
This
and a
topic
story. God.
generated from me being excited about watching a team playing one night, right? I wanted to see the Jazz versus the Clippers. I was like, the Jazz are my team that I'm excited to watch, right? On a night in, night out basis. I turned on the game to watch the Jazz that night, and literally nobody's playing. I think Kevin Love started that night. I think Lou
Did
might
he
have been the
really?
starting point guard. It was that bad. And it led me to realize that part of the reason these teams are so bad is because they don't care about winning, and they're trying not to win. And we're gonna talk about that later, but that just really upset me. And so that's why the Jazz are not my pick. That's why the Wizards are my pick. I didn't want to go with the obvious team, but I get to be around them more than other teams, so more clued into their development and what they're trying to get to. The thing about this topic is it does force you to watch games from a different standpoint, right? You're not watching these games thinking about championships. You're not watching these games thinking about, playoffs and development. A lot of times you're watching these games thinking about the team that they're playing. But
Fact.
there are development stories that you can look into, right? And that you could watch players get better from game to game and month to month. And so that's what I like about the Wizards. The bad news about the Wizards is that they could have had a completely different trajectory. They got a number 2 pick, but they got a number 2 pick in a weak draft. Ended up with a project player. That sounds worse than it sounds, but a project player in Alex Sarr versus a transformational player, right? They do the thing that they're supposed to do. They tank to get a 1 or 2 pick, had the second best, tied for the worst record in the league, but instead of getting a Cooper Flag or Dylan Harper, who would be
Hmm.
transformational, they end up falling down to 6. And now they're stuck with another project player in Trey Johnson. Oh, and by the way, the one lottery player that they had that was kind of shaken out, Denny Avia. Well, Hans gets to talk about him now as a breakout player in Portland because we traded him in the 2 picks that came, Keshawn George and Bub Carrington.
Thank
So
you.
you had a team that could have, you're welcome, sir. You had a team that could have fast tracked their way to success, but the way the cards laid out, now they're on the long road to will they get to success? So when you watch a team like the Wizards, you got to watch and really divorce yourself from that reality and look at it from a completely different, set of expectations. Those
But
expectations are. Go ahead.
I was gonna say, and I didn't mean to cut you off with
No,
listing
you're
the
good. You're good.
expectations, and I probably put the cart in front of the horse. But with their track record of being stuck in project mode, do you have faith that they're doing what's necessary to get out of
Mhm.
this version of this project mode? Right. One thing my boss always tells me, Lou knows as a project manager, a project has a start date and an end date. So, what is the end date of this project with the Wizards?
Hey, that captures it perfectly. So when you have a team that comes out to like a 2-24 start, you're like, okay, this project needs to be scrapped, right? This project ain't working. I will say, I think they won like 4 of their last 6 games. They've
Nah,
turned it
CJ
around in the
McCollum
past
he's
past
not
couple
on
weeks.
script. He's pushing
Listen,
them through.
CJ is trying to get he's trying to get chose. All right, we'll stay in the project mindset. CJ trying to get chose. Okay,
Hey,
he,
teams on the fringe, I'm the
right,
guy you need.
right,
Hey,
right.
Milwaukee.
But he's auditioning well, and so he's raising the level of the team to an extent. Chris Middleton's not happening the same way. Chris Middleton, this
Nah,
this is
man, I think
this
he's
is it
done.
for him.
Yeah,
Um,
right into
but
the
SARS
sunset,
look
my guy.
better. SARS look better, right under 20 a game, or no, about 17 a game, 2.4 blocks a game, little Serge Ibaka ish, right? There's some fringe there. He's got a little fluidity to his game. You got a couple other players like Keshawn George, shoots the ball very well, versatile both defending and offensively. And Trey Johnson, listen, he shoots as advertised. He'll pull it from the logo without hesitation. So since he's been inserted into the starting lineup, they've looked a little better. So you have players that you can watch from a night to night basis and see, okay, are we getting some development there? It's still a long way to go. And the problem is they need this draft to land in their favor. But because they've been scoring from the last draft, it's not as simple as, okay, let's lose games and get, another pick. They
Yeah,
just need the luck. So
yeah.
we'll see. We'll see. But I'm still tuned in, though.
Okay. All right. Lou, who's your favorite team that you like to watch, although they're not doing the best in the league right now?
You know, realistically, my answer would be the Bulls. However, you
The
know,
rules of this engagement were you cannot pick your team. So
absolutely. So, like you said, man, the AAU team of the NBA and then the Charlotte Hornets, and it's just amazing how bad a team can just be, and look like they're having fun being bad. Like it's
That's the
madness.
thing, son.
That's madness.
in beautiful jerseys at that.
Yeah,
Man,
like just having
fire jerseys
yeah,
and
having
sneakers.
being bad. I'm like, I don't get it. It's just like, and this is why when D Wade made that comparison, calling them the AAU team, because it's really like a bunch of kids out there just like, oh yeah, I'm just happy to come ball out today, and they're getting paid. It now at some point we have to have a real conversation about LaMelo. Like, what's the purpose, right? Like, is he a guy that you continuously build a team around? And he's only played one season over 50 games. I think the second closest, I think he probably played 42. Your leading scorer this season is Miles Bridges. No shade to Miles Bridges, but Miles Bridges is the third best option on any other team.
Yeah.
You're just watching it. It's like you guys haven't been good since Jamal Mashburn and PJ Brown played. So it's just it's fascinating. Like I said in the beginning, it's just fascinating to see a team so bad over a decade, and really just enjoy it. Just like, hey, cool, man.
Yo, that that is so apropos because every Charlotte game I've watched, yo, that's exactly it. They're balling, they're having fun, they doing their thing. I'm like,
Keep
yo,
keying and laughing. You guys are terrible.
like, what is happening? And you know what though? You brought up a good point. I think we need to accept that this is LaMelo Ball. Like this is it. I I I love to quote my boy Ev. You know, potential is just a fancy French word for not doing anything, right?
Not
I
worth
did the
much right
family
now.
version of that. You know, like he is. Dude is giving you what 19, 5, and 8 right now, man. And he's
At
supposed to
best.
be a top elite point guard, and that's just not it. It makes you wonder though when you're seeing them having fun, and I think what it is with not the Nuggets, what the Charlotte Hornets are, they're bought into that fool's gold. They're bought into that fool's gold of the flashy play because Brandon Miller will give you some games where you're like, yo, this dude right here is a problem, right?
Mhm.
Like, so he'll give you that if he could stay healthy. He has health issues as well too.
Yeah.
So like he'll give you flashes and then Bridges, like he'll go on a tear and you're like, hey yo, like
LaMelo gonna give you some fine alley oops and all that.
yeah. So then it's
Chill.
like, but you can't have a steady diet of that. You know what they are? They're junk food. That's what they are. They're junk food. That's exactly what
Yes.
it is, man.
Yeah. And they also attributed that they don't have any true veteran leadership there. They're just
Look
kind
at
of
the
just
roster. Go
You
yeah,
got
ahead.
your
just
boy Grant Williams there,
come on, man.
Colin
the roster.
Sexton.
Come on, man. Colin Sexton, like, come on, man.
I mean, I agree, but I
Pat
feel like
Connaughton.
they've right. I feel like
Mason Plumlee.
they've tried that route. They've tried the veteran route. They've tried so many different routes. They're like on their fourth different coach. And when you look
Mhm.
at them, you can't say they've missed with their draft picks, right? I mean, the four you named, Bridges, Miller, LaMelo. We didn't talk Con Knipple yet, but rookie, right? All four of them hovering around 20 points a game. When four of your starters averaging 20 a game, that sounds like you should be there, right?
Exactly.
But
100%.
this, I mean, this, like you said, this product, I mean, I was gonna say the last, 5, 6 years, but I mean, yes, you're right. This has been going on for 20 years, but even the last 5, 6 years, it's looked like okay, they put pieces in place that they can turn the corner, right? You sign Colin Sexton because you know LaMelo is going to miss games all the time, right?
Mhm.
They've made decent moves, they've made coaching changes, they've drafted well. It's just not working, and you're right. I don't know what it is, but it's just they are perennially 10th to 12th. Instead of 6, 7, it should be 10, 12. That's the
Hey,
home. 10, 12.
hey,
Okay.
10, 12. I
hey,
like that. That's the,
oh, man.
that's the
That's
OG
what
version.
we talk every time we talk plans now, man.
There you go. Yeah,
10,
French play 10, 12.
10, 12. That's it.
So
We started something where we did it. We did it first here. That's why we're the number one NBA podcast in the universe. But yeah, man, you guys are exactly right because they do have the right ingredients. You know, they have the players, but we just get sucked in. They don't fit. It just doesn't translate to good basketball. I'm aging myself. They're the and one mixtape that we all love to watch, but it's good and entertaining when there, but it doesn't translate into
You know
into
when you
quality basketball for
call
winning.
them when you call them junk food, or you just talking about this ingredients thing. You ever had somebody follow a recipe to a T and the food is still bad?
Right. That's exactly it. That's exactly it. Cooking's an art form, okay?
that's it.
I don't know why my cake didn't rise.
Is right. That's
You're missing something crucial. I don't know what it is. Read it again. You're missing
right.
something
Do it
crucial.
again. And is that something they consider though? Before we move
It
on
said
to
baking
the other
powder, not
team.
baking soda. I'm sorry.
Yeah, right. Wrong type of flour.
Oh my goodness, man.
Is that something they consider? Do they consider blowing it up? And if they do, who's the surrounding piece?
That that's
Well,
what
I think I think you have something. You have enough in Brandon Miller and Kyle Knuckle that I call them keepers. Bridges had that, the domestic situation a couple years ago that I think torpedoed his value. But a couple years removed, I see him on another team like PJ Washington turned into for Dallas, right? Just a solid piece in the right situation. So I think you could get something back for him. But it's the way I ended the way we started this. It comes down to LaMelo. It's not going to work there. Get him to a situation that sell somebody else the dream and pull back just a solid piece and build around those two.
Send it to the Lakers.
Send it to the Lakers. LaMelo
LaMelo
for
for
AR.
Reeves and
AR.
Rui.
Okay, I like that.
There we go. There we go.
AR and Rui. Who says no?
I like it.
They don't play defense anyway. I'm just saying.
I mean, they don't play defense, so it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. It's fine. It's fine. Okay. All right, y'all. Let's move on real quick to my team, the Clippers. As much as I've given up on them doing anything, I still watch them. They're my guilty pleasure. I tune in. I want to see this car crash and what's happening.
I feel like Hans has a secret phone. He called Kawhi.
It is. They're on my sneaky link phone. They're my sneaky link.
Why are you acting like this?
Stop it. But then he goes off for 40, 50, 41.
And it's late night too, because you're East Coast. That's exactly what it is. You up doing what you have no business doing. Watching
That's
too many
exactly
Clippers
it.
games.
That's exactly it. Nothing good happens in the nighttime. That's what my parents always told you, right?
And they moved. And Adam Silver moved all the start times back to 11 o'clock anyway. You need to be asleep, man. Okay,
listen, man.
you need to be asleep.
Nothing good happens late at night, and that's what happens with the Clippers, man. Nothing good's happening, man. But I will say though, to their defense, they've put together a little win streak. I know they lost last night to who they lose? Boston.
Jaylen Brown dropped.
They lost to
50
Boston, but before they had like a 6-game win streak, and they were kind of inching up. But with them, I wonder if it's too little, too late, right? Because what I'm seeing is that they're jockeying with Dallas, but the thing that Dallas has in their favor is Kyrie, right? And I think once Kyrie's back, we're going to see a different Dallas, and they're going to start to separate themselves from the Clippers and even possibly us, right? Like that's something we have to worry about, Portland as well too. But nonetheless, man, I think what the Clippers do to me is, you ever hear those guys who live in their glory days and who just can't stop talking about those old games where they did their thing, and every time you talk to them, they're always talking about, hey, yo, remember when we did that? Remember when we, that's what the Clippers do to me, man. They're the guys in the glory days when Tyronn Lue was a top coach and coaching everybody out off the court, when Harden was Houston Harden and shaking and making people fall to the floor and getting buckets, when Kawhi was surgical with his moves and, nobody could really stop him, even though you knew what he was going to do. It wasn't flashy, but it was efficient. They're nostalgia for me, man. That's what they are. And they're of a time that, the NBA was great. Not that it's not great now, but it was a high-powered NBA, and I want that nostalgia back, man. That's what it is. I just had a therapy session with myself right now. That's what the Clippers are. They're the nostalgia team for me. They're the OG team who keeps living in their glory days.
We listen and we don't judge.
That's what the Clippers are for me, man. So that's why I like watching them. I honestly, though, for James Harden and for Tyronn Lue, I want them to do better just for those guys, because I don't think those guys deserve the criticism that they're going to get ultimately when this team underperforms like they're going to do. And I hope that with the changes that are going to happen, because something's got to change if this team wants to get better, that Tyronn Lue and James Harden are blamed, because they've been the only consistent thing with the Clippers since Kawhi's been there.
Something you didn't mention that I see is just kind of like quietly dissipated. What's going on with this scandal with Kawhi and this shell company?
Aspirations.
Yeah,
Aren't
what's
they
this?
still being investigated by the NBA? I think we're waiting to see the NBA's verdict on that. They're still being investigated. So until the NBA says yes, yay or nay to them, you know, circumventing the salary cap, they're just going to continue playing.
Everything I hear is that they want to have closure to it before the All Star break, since they're hosting the All Star game.
Mhm.
Mhm.
So we'll probably get a quiet news dump one of these Friday afternoons with a. I anticipate more a slap on the wrist than a big story, because again, it's that Pandora's box of, all right, how much do you want to dig into salary cap
Mhm.
circumvention at,
Yeah.
at, at
How
this
bad
level?
does it make you look as a league? Like,
Right,
yeah,
Or
I
how
can
many
see
other
them.
things you have to start looking into?
right, right.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, but with the Clippers, it goes back to, so at the beginning of the season, we talked about like how great the West was, right, versus the East. And while I do think the top of the West has lived up to that, I think when you look at like five or maybe six down, um, there's a lot more teams down there that are underperforming than overperforming, in my opinion. But what it does open up, again, kind of what I said is, you got 12 teams really looking like, hey, we should be in playoff position, right? So if you're the Clippers, although you're struggling, you're probably looking like, hey, we're a hot week away from being right in the play-in and just giving ourselves a shot. And that could also be full goal too when you're an old team, right? You
Yeah.
you thinking, listen, man, I just gotta get back on the court and shoot one more layup, and I'm right back what I used to be. I don't know if any of them players you mentioned are going to be all the way back where they used to be consistently, but that waits to be seen.
That's facts. Since you're talking about the bottom of the league, the bottom of the conference, let's move on to our next topic and last topic, tanking. Let's get into it. So, as Ev mentioned, the bottom of the league, tanking, it's heating up again. You got a couple teams, a couple offenders, or are they offending? We'll get into that. They're doing it again, but it looks different now. Is the draft broken? Are teams even tanking the right way? And what are the options actually? Like, how do you actually get better in this league where being in the middle of the pack might actually be worse off than being really bad? So, what do you think is going on with this whole taking situation? Ev, I'll have you started off.
Well, first off, I think tanking as a whole broke last year, when the aforementioned Cooper Flag sweepstakes, when you have a team like Dallas jump up 1% and is able to get the number one pick, when you have a team like the Spurs that were able to draft 1, 4, and 2 in 3 years
Mhm.
back to back to back and really transform their team, right? While at the same time you have teams that are legit bad, right, that have not been able to benefit from getting a number one or number two pick, at least in the right times. So what I think tanking looks different now, right? It's not as much, we got to tank, get the last pick, as it is, hey, we're going to focus on developing players. We're going to focus on, players that maybe shouldn't get as many minutes now. They're going to get them. Rest is going to look a little different. I think teams are just looking at their season completely differently as a developmental ground versus a legit tanking ground. And honestly, I think that the draft as a whole is broken from the standpoint that it does not help bad teams do better. It's just a leverage play. So it has turned into another tool
That is a
that good
fact.
teams can use to get better versus what bad teams
That
can
was gonna
can use.
that was gonna be definitely my point. I think the draft is now really just as a it's used as a tool. And notably, look at OKC. They're the top team in the league, but yet they have high draft picks coming up this next draft, right? So, like Ev says, I really don't think that teams are now tanking thinking that, hey, oh, we got this high pick locked. It's more like, oh man, like this is an asset that we have now that we can a bargaining chip essentially. So no, that's 100% right. But even with that though, it's based on percentages, right? It's eventually a lottery. Don't you think that there's still some teams that are still in that same old mindset? Like, hey, I could probably play these percentages. Like, are the percentages going to lay out like they did for the Wizards last year, where they unfortunately missed out on Cooper Flag? You think there's still some teams out there that are playing that game? I think about the Pelicans. Are they playing that game? Or, like, so what do you think about teams like that?
I think the Pelicans just don't want their pick to end up top 3 and going to the Hawks. That's what I think their concern is, because that would be catastrophic. But go ahead, Lou. Jump in.
No, well, I think another piece of it is I think honestly the draft classes have been a bit weaker as well. So I think that also contributes to it. So the level of players that are fully developed and what you would probably consider NBA ready haven't necessarily panned out to be that over the last couple of years. How many players can we say, yo, they come in and really made an impact, day one or fairly early, and it's not too many, and there'd be a myriad of reasons for that, and then in terms of this whole tanking, you know, idea. I think what happened early in the season with the Blazers also something now to consider, right? So I think now that like in the back of the NBA's mind, they have to consider what gambling implications can be around what teams are deciding to do. Come closer to the end of the season if they're deciding, oh, they want to quote unquote tank, and try to probably put some parameters and protections around that, just to maintain the integrity of the product of the NBA. So teams aren't just purposely like, you know what, let's f this, let's well, let's just waste out the rest of the season and maybe we can make our money on the back end of some sort. So I think the whole idea of tanking and what's happening now is, I think it's going to be just more than what's happening with players and getting them and developing. I think that it's going to just also have large implications because other thing that you mentioned, right? Going to a game and not seeing your top guys play. I think how they're managing their stars and prime example Kawhi, right? Kawhi just sitting, and why is he truly sitting, right? And if a team feels like, hey, maybe I can sit my top guy, put ourselves in more advantageous position because it's still, like you said, Hans, a lottery system, so there are some numbers to play there, regardless if they're messing with them on the back end. Some of those teams that are between 3 to 8 are still gonna still actually fall through a true lottery system. I think just the top maybe 1 through 3 are the ones that may be a little funny, but there are some teams that are gonna be like, all right, maybe we can sit our guy and tank out this season, and then maybe we can get a solid number 5 pick that we can add on to play with our star guy.
But that also essentially puts a lot of pressure on these organizations to get a proper developmental program as well too, right? So if you're really going to, I don't want to say tank, but develop purposely, like with a purpose. Like that means you have to have that in place, and then you have to have a pool where you're getting these quality players from and getting them to run as well too. So I think it adds another dimension, right, to these organizations and resources that they have to be tapped into. Because I don't think I think about my organization, like Portland, my one of my criticisms with them is we don't have that great of a developmental program for our players, right? So it puts added pressure on these teams to kind of pool their resources and strengthen up in other areas that they definitely didn't need to, especially if you're seeing that these draft picks aren't really shaking out.
The NBA as a whole hasn't really properly have a great developmental league, right? These shifted from the D League to the G League, and then now with this added wrench of guys going back, to college. I think just the structure of the NBA as a whole doesn't have a good developmental program.
So you're talking right into something that I actually wanted to throw out to you guys. It's something, it might sound radical at first, but I think when you listen to it, it kind of makes sense when you walk it through. So when you talk about just basketball as an entire landscape, right? We know we live in a world where we have like prep schools that recruit nationally, bring the top players in. We have colleges, the top colleges that recruit out those prep schools. We know we in an environment where we've got NIL money everywhere now. So college itself operates in its own kind of free agency landscape. And now we've got this this added wrinkle of guys can get drafted, and if they haven't signed, they got an option, they can go somewhere else, back to college. So at every level, I think Hans, you mentioned it last week, we pretending that there's amateurism, but every step of the way it's behaving like professionalism.
Mm-hmm.
So if it's behaving like that, what I keep coming back to is, why don't we just own it? Why don't we just admit it, right? What if universities acted like these, like official academies, kind of like the way European soccer setup clubs do? Recruit the top players early, not to their varsity team, but into like a developmental academy program, like that's in that high school range. So they get education, coaching continuity, development that we're talking about, access to NIL dollars. So, there's potential for go ahead and start paying them earlier, right? When they're ready, they either enroll, they transfer, they go pro, or they move on. But we formalize the developmental structure earlier, so we're building more polished, ready, NBA ready players. Now, here's where it gets interesting, because if you do that, then you don't really need a draft anymore. The purpose of the draft kind of falls away. If they're already being recruited at 14, paid at 18, developed professionally, and represented before they even step on the NBA floor, instead of us pretending that we need a draft to bring them into the league, why don't we just create a structured free agent system to where teams get limited number of slots to bring in players that they've been able to spend years now capturing and watching their development, have some standardized contracts there. And now, instead of draft randomness, now you have more of player development where teams are, okay, this is exactly what I need to go after, right? And I can go after the entire pool to go after the type of players that I need, rather than hoping that, okay, it lands at a certain ping pong ball in the draft slot, and hopefully the player I need is there when my pick comes up. Something to think about.
My
It ends
question,
tanking. It rewards competent organizations. It gives players some real agency, right? And then it lines everything up the way the sport already operates.
my question with that, I think it's a great idea. I like it. I like the sound of it. I like the practicality of it. Um, is on the business side, would the NBA then have to limit or cut ties with their relationship with the NCAA, or make this system some way, shape, or form advantageous to the NCAA to kind of get it going?
I think
I think.
with
Go ahead, Lou.
yeah, I think with this, what they can do, they can, in similar vein, NBA basically absorb AAU and have their academy. And as guys get to college age, if it's something where they can choose still to go to college, kind of like how the baseball players do, they can go still play in college.
Hmm.
If they so choose, and if I mean, they have the opportunity to NIL like and then still be part of that, can still be brought back on. But I think there's still, for education purposes, the college has to be still something that's an option for some players. And then other guys, if they're ready at 18, they don't even have to go to high school. You know what I mean? Straight out at high school age, pipeline them right in.
I think under this model, or even if not this model, a similar model, the NBA already tries to influence basketball at a younger age. Now the
Hmm.
NBA is more in the role of managing basketball, right? And
Mm,
eliminating a lot of the wild west that takes place outside of the NBA's purview to manage basketball as a whole.
that's definitely a good point. That's a good point. That's a good point, right? And they're responsible for a lot of this Wild Wild West anyway, right? So why not own it, manage it? We're the big dogs. We'll handle it. Let's make this a clear pipeline. I kind of like that. I like that. Guys, let us know what you think. Do you think this works? This lines up with what they do in soccer, essentially, basically following that European model. So the NBA adopted? I don't know. What do you think? As always, guys, thank you so much for joining us. We appreciate it. Hit us up on our socials, interact with us, let us know what you think. We'll see you guys next week. Peace. What's up, guys? Thank you for listening to the 3 on 3 podcast. Please be sure to give the episode a thumbs up if you loved it. Hit that subscribe button, and last but not least, hit that bell so that way you're notified every time we drop a new episode. Hit us up on our social media, guys. You can find us at the 3 on 3 podcast on IG and Twitter. If you want to give us any ideas or suggestions, shoot us an email at the 3 on 3 podcast @gmail.com. We appreciate you. Thank you for tuning in. See you guys next time.